Welcome to Remembering You, a space for slowing down, seeing again, and gathering the parts of yourself that the world asked you to forget.
Each week, we wander through stories, ancient, personal, and collective, to explore how perspective changes everything. How what we look at and how we look can open doors to who we truly are.
Take a breath, feel your feet.
You've arrived.
Let's begin remembering you.
What is our topic today, my love?
We're going to talk about energy, but specifically energy from a kind of human felt experience.
From our bodies. Energetic sense or feel from within and without our physical being.
Yeah. Being a human, moving through the world, having experiences. But I want to take maybe a little side door into this topic. So I have a question for you.
No two bodies are the same.
No two bodies or minds.
Or the experience within a body is the same.
As we are going to discover.
Oh, I was with a colleague yesterday and we were talking about hospice and a specific patient. And she mentioned something that we've talked about in the past. And that was when she is with someone when they are close to death, she sees their energy field. And it's swirly and whirly.
Ooh.
And like she sees their energy body.
I'm jealous.
Which is really cool.
Not uncommon. I mean,
she's the type of person that you would not expect that that's her experience. It's absolutely delightful.
I love that.
I love working with people who are in tune with their gifts. So what is your question?
So my question is, I want you to can you picture something in your mind right now? So not metaphorically, but literally. So if I say the word apple, do you see one? And is it a vague shape? Is it vivid? Is it red or green? Is it rotating? Is it sitting still? What's it like for you?
I see it. This is hilarious because we have some beautiful red apples on our dining room table right now.
Yeah.
Which are included in my afternoon meal on most days. And earlier today, my thought was, I need to get some green apples. I like the tart. And so as soon as you said apple, I had a green apple in my mind, and it was bright and shiny and just kind of front and center. So
okay.
It's interesting how I thought about green apples earlier today, and now I'm
in
seeing
your mind
a green apple right now.
So that is fairly normal. Most people have some kind of visual representation in their mind. It might not actually be colored. Like for some people, it's maybe fuzzy or it's just black and white. And then, all the way to like super saturated, hyper real. Like for some people, their internal camera, so to say, like what they can see behind their mind's eye is more vivid than the quote unquote real world.
Could we say that that's their capacity for imagination?
Yeah. Yep.
So someone is not imaginative, or my guess is that it's the spectrum. Some people have had their imagination logic and reasoned out of them, or never been given permission to play with the sandbox of imagination. And then there are others who have, and like it's a magical, mystical wonderland in their imaginal sandbox.
Yes.
But you're saying that there is a physical capacity or a lack of being able to tap into the experience of imagination.
Well, I would say it just works differently for other people. So
yeah, say more.
So I am someone who has what is called aphantasia, which is no.
Sounds like a Disney movie.
Yeah. It is not a disorder. It is just a different way of processing information in the brain.
Mhm.
But I cannot see anything in my mind's eye. I close my eyes and it's just blank. It's totally black in there. Every once in a while I might have some very nascent kind of fuzzy colors, but it's almost like static on a TV screen, but it's nowhere near that vivid. So I didn't know this about myself until about a year ago. I just, and I think I've said this before on the podcast, like when I can remember what something looks like. Like if you ask me to think of an apple, I mean, I know that they're red or green or yellow and they're shiny and so obviously I have recall, like I know what things look like, but I don't literally see anything behind my eyes. And then that is also most people who have aphantasia also don't experience any other form of internally generated sense perception. So like I can't smell anything internally. I can't taste anything internally. And I was just texting with my brother this morning because I was very curious if he can smell anything internally or taste anything internally. And he's like, well, if I ask you to think of the smell of grandma's house, like, do you experience that? And I was like, I remember what it smells like, but I don't literally smell it as if I were standing in her house. And I'm like, do you? And he's like, now I'm second guessing whether or not I can. He's like, no, I don't literally smell anything. He's like, but obviously I do remember what it smells like. And I was like, yeah, people can internally generate smells or tastes or vision or sound. So like also I don't have an internal auditory monologue. My internal experience is completely silent, completely without vision. There's no smell. There's nothing. But I remember what all of that is like. And but you were kind of the total opposite, yes?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I can drop right into the smell of both of my grandparents' homes.
Yeah.
And one set of grandparents smoked, and so I can smell that smoke right now.
Like literally as if it's wafting in your nose.
Like I want to sneeze. Yep, right now.
It's so
like
wild
my nose,
to
like
me.
It's tickling on the inside. Like I'm having the sensations of, and I remember being a kid, and I'm sure my parents were just mortified because us kids, when we go to grandma and grandpa's, it was like, are they gonna die because they're smoking?
No.
And they did their best not to smoke in front of us, but it was one of those things that both grandparents on one side of the family, and then I'm very I guess visceral feeling from the smell of my mom's side of my grandparents, and very clean. Like I smell the cleaning agents. Like it was just always immaculate and clean. I don't know what grandma used for cleaning, but her bathroom smelled clean. Like that chemical, what have you. And I can also smell a cake baking, and I can smell Christmas dinner, and so there's other smells that I can tap into. I think what we are talking about today is fascinating because I take for granted that you can't just drop into an experience,
and have never been able to,
for sure. And you're kind of a normal human, like
right.
You haven't suffered because you don't have this. how many times in our lives have we, this is a fun question, have we just assumed that everybody has the same experience
Exactly. Yeah.
that I do?
Yep.
And the reality is not so much.
Well, and the implications from a clinical standpoint for like how we treat trauma or just stress, say you go to a therapist and you're like, I'm stressed out, I need some help. Or if you go for training for meditation, for example,
Mm-hmm.
our tools and therapies and practices are grounded on kind of a baseline assumption that people have an experience a lot like yours, because that's sort of the norm.
Mm-hmm.
And so if, like, I remember when I started going to a therapist that was asking me to, like, for example, I got into a really bad car accident and went through EMDR, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And she was asking me to, reimagine the car accident. And then, we'd do the little back and forth eye movements. And that worked really, really well. It was a very fresh experience. Like, it was just a week or two after the car accident. And so my recall was very good. But then I later in life, so maybe 10 years ago, went to another therapist who also knew EMDR, and she was trying to help me process some of my childhood traumas. And I remember a lot of her questions around, can you go back and imagine blah, blah, blah scene? What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? And what is also overlapping a lot in people who are like me with aphantasia is, what's it called? What a clinician calls severely deficient autobiographical memory. So it's an experience in which personal memories are held as knowledge rather than as felt experience. So, for example, somebody with SDAM may know that their wedding happened. They may recall facts about it. They may even have emotional responses when thinking about it, but they cannot relive it from the inside.
Mm.
And so my experiences in life, like even my experience of being married to my ex-husband, which only ended like 6 years ago, and we were together for almost 20 years. Those memories of what it was like to be married to my husband is not much different than what it was like to be in grade school. Like, it feels very far away. It feels kind of abstract. It's not a visceral
Mm-hmm.
experience. And so a lot of like therapies don't work for me the same way that they do for a lot of other people. And I'm kind of just now appreciating this. So I stumbled across a series of articles on Substack by a developmental neuroscientist named Dr. Gently. Is Patty? Oh, shoot. Now I'm going to forget her first name. Yeah, her name is Dr. Patty Gently. Fantastic Substack. She's got lots of really cool stuff on there. So we'll link in the show notes to her Substack. I have been aware for about a year that I have aphantasia, but as so she's breaking down all of these other co-related things, and of course, then what people experience who are autistic, what people who experience who are ADHD, and she's kind of talking about the neuroscience behind them all, and it's helping me connect some dots and be like, oh, holy crap, that is true for me as well, and this other thing is true for me as well, which then makes my experience of being in a body and navigating the energetic, somatic world is very different.
Sure. Yeah, I think of our 2 years of Buddhist meditation training.
Yeah.
And one of the well-worn instructions during that time was to experience an ocean, or to see an ocean, or to be in a space of spaciousness like the wide open sky.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, immediately there's taste touch, smell, sight in the imaginal experience from the last time I was at the ocean or the last time that I was flying a kite, or like that is what I'm connecting into, which
Yeah.
is a beautiful, beautiful way to experience. I think probably it's been a couple of years of working with individuals and groups around meditation and practices that are helping our mindfulness practices that some folks get very nervous or anxious or just are physically fidgety
Yep.
when I am giving instruction to feel your feet on the floor
Mm-hmm.
or connect with your heart. And what is the emotion of your experience in your heart center right now? And place your hands on your heart center. And uh, like I have one team that I work with frequently in leading meditation practices, and probably 75% of the team, it kills them. Like they are physically, mentally, and emotionally unable to close their eyes and to feel the chair beneath them supporting them and to trust the chair. Like that is just not helping bring calm or peace.
Quite the opposite.
Or I'll refer to it as join me in our centering exercise. And it is decentering
Yeah.
for people because of the way that they relate to their body and their internal world. So one of the things that I will do is play music during those guided meditations, and the music can help distract them from the discomfort of being focused and listening to or connecting with their physical experience in their body. And I will use singing bowls and sound healing exercises in those times. And it gives someone an opportunity to hear and to feel and to be focused on the outside while I am inviting rest into the inside of their experience as well. And it has taken me 20 years of teaching and facilitating to finally recognize what I need to do and how I need to support someone who is not comfortable with their internal experience and having that focus.
In Dr. Gently's articles, she talks about something called alexithymia. Alexithymia, AlexithymiA, which roughly translates to no words for feelings. It describes a way of relating to emotional experience in which identifying, naming, and describing emotions from the inside is genuinely difficult. It can present as limited emotional vocabulary, difficulty distinguishing bodily states from emotional states, or an orientation toward external, factual, and logical processing rather than felt internal experience. It's common in autistic communities. It's estimated at 40 to 65% within the autistic community. It's found at elevated rates in people who have ADHD, PTSD, and somatic conditions. And this difficulty identifying body sensations is a related feature of how some people's brain processing systems navigate their internal landscape. And so often people who have systems like this experience a lot of shame and feeling of judgment when, because of their whole life, they've perhaps come across prompts, maybe like the ones you are giving, can you feel whatever internally? And they can't. And that elicits a lot, like this sense of like, oh, there must be something wrong with me. And even clinically, it's often described as, they have limited emotional awareness. They can't, maybe they're dissociated. And that is actually, I mean, sometimes that might be true, but it also is not true. And so hearing you say that the sound bowls help them, that completely makes sense to me, because I remember in our meditation training when he would ask us to focus on sound, like what that was such a huge helpful doorway for me. Like I loved going to sit outside and listen to the birds, and like my whole nervous system would just utterly relax, and I could rest in sound in a way that I can't rest in a silent room.
And in the 70s and 80s, when ADD was the big thing and medication was being prescribed, that also complicates the neurodynamics and balance of putting all of this pharmacological
yeah, right.
I'm trying not to use the word neurotoxin, but
yeah, it's not toxic, but it is.
It is not helping someone get to the root of it. It's very much a Band-Aid. And so coming back to your statement of people feeling shame or somehow less than because they're unable to feel or to articulate or communicate, that makes total sense.
Yeah, like my system, when you ask me to imagine an apple, generates that knowing of what an apple is differently. Instead it will go through. So we have lots of other channels internally besides just the visual ones, or whatever, or the sound ones or the smell ones. We have concepts, we have relational channels, we have narrative kind of storytelling ones, we have semantic kind of, just all of the factual, this is what the thing is. So sensory stimulation is just one option. And those of us who don't have that reorganize our nervous systems and our, like the way our brain processes information. It just goes through different channels. So which is not to say that it's not as rich of an experience or as intelligent of an experience. It's just very, very different. And I feel delighted at the prospect of one, just people having language for the ways in which their experiences are, and then two, to acknowledge that there's nothing wrong. It's just different. Now, there might be, like, that is not to say that people who have ADHD or PTSD, it is not to say that there are experiences that we can have that do kind of get
tangled.
Sort of bound up on and so that is sort of the other part of this energy conversation is the way that our bodies and our minds constrict around stressful experiences, and then how do we work with that skillfully. And so I think having a deeper appreciation of the different ways in which people's brains and nervous systems operate, like in the ways in which they operate, then that allows us to be able to point to how do we work with this in ways that are more genuinely helpful.
How would you describe this? Would you you combined a brain and nervous system?
Yeah.
Would you say that we are a body that has a brain and a nervous system, or are we a brain that has a nervous system and a body?
Neither. Yes, and
no, really,
both.
Okay. Say more, my love.
the brain and the body are one. They are not, there's no division. There's no, I mean, we can put them in different buckets in the same way that, for example, in medicine, we distinguish, there is a circulatory system and there is a musculoskeletal system. But in truth, the heart is not separate from the muscles or the other organ. Like, it all communicates with one another. If my liver stops working, my heart's going to eventually stop working because my whole body is going to die. So it's like it all is a unitive system that is influencing all parts of it all the time in varying degrees. And so the notion of, are we a brain with a body or are we a body with a brain, is kind of silly. We are a whole big experience that is constantly changing.
So I will yes and you.
Yeah.
Yes, and we are in a culture that only relates from the head up most of the time.
Yes.
Like, that is the way of experience, and showing up in the world is very much through our head and our mind.
And that has profound consequences.
It's devastating on a number of different levels. One, I'll point to from my childhood. There's a scripture that I grew up in the Christian church, and the scripture says that we have the mind of Christ, which is beautiful if you just think about Christ consciousness.
Yeah, so what is that specifically?
What does it mean to have the thoughts or the perspective or the understanding, the knowing of the divine?
Yeah.
Immediately I drop into the book of Genesis, and the book of beginnings gives a picture of creation from the perspective of darkness and chaos and this primordial soup and ooze that just kind of is undefinable and it's a mess. There's no order. There's no beauty. It just is a mess. And yet the divine mind and heart sees and feels and speaks and brings creation into being. And that is where I go when I think about and meditate on the picture of having the mind of Christ. It's the ability to see the chaos and the dysfunction and to bring order out of chaos, to bring beauty out of ashes, to take what looks like hate and have it transformed and changed into love.
Would you say that, so I feel very tempted to make it super practical. Would you say that is like, for example, recently someone sent an email to about 850 other people with a whole lot of really terrible words about me. They named me by name, and they said a bunch of really yucky.
It was slander.
And I mean, obviously at first that was not an enjoyable experience. I was really overwhelmed. Took me several days to just find any sense of ground and calm. But once I did, within a week, maybe a week and a half, I now look at that experience and I see so much opportunity for myself. And I guess it's something like compassion for who that person is and why they did what they did. Or maybe it's like there's a way in which I think I am understanding what Jesus meant by the phrase turn the other cheek.
There is so much like turn the other cheek is a moment of guerrilla theater.
Yeah.
It is looking at, so legally, a Roman citizen could slap a second-rate member of society.
Oh, interesting.
So, and that's what the Jews were.
They
were
okay.
were looked at as subhuman in a lot of ways. And so this action of turning the other cheek was to say, you have a right to hit me once, but I have the power to say, you can hit me a second time. And if they did, it made them look like they were little and less than in the eyes of culture. And it's a beautiful way to step back and also feel into the experience of the worst thing that you could imagine, someone trying to publicly shame you. And a week later, you're still alive and you're okay and you're stronger and more in your power and confidence than ever, which is another moment of what Satan meant for evil, God uses for good.
Yes. Yeah, like, so I also should be very transparent and say, I did react.
Well, of course.
So I mean, I reacted both, just there were 3 days I spent completely ungrounded and like wasn't sleeping well and was just really dysregulated. But then I also, about a week later, sent a response to that person. It was all very factual. It was, but it was like I wasn't slandering them in return. I wasn't calling them names. I wasn't, well, you're a piece of shit. But it sounded like it was written by a lawyer. So it had an energy to it that was protective, was clearly communicating what you said was not okay, and I don't like it. That was very much the energy behind it. It would be wrong to say that I regret sending that, but I do recognize that I didn't need to. I understand now that I did not need to send that. Because the truth is, so
miserable.
I mean, yeah, that man is he's so miserable, and all it did. I mean, now there may be some people who receive that message that don't know me, and they're like, "God, who is this Aliceanne Schmidt? And she sounds like a schmuck," and whatever. Like they don't know who I am, and so. But the people who do know me, who received that email,
they were fucking pissed,
and they were like, all it does is show how much of a miserable piece of shit this other guy is.
He just keeps doing it over and over again.
Like he just keeps making himself look bad.
Stop.
And so I didn't need to defend myself because he already is absurd. But it took me a little while to get there. And that's okay. I don't feel shame about how I responded. I can have grace for myself
in the future.
Yeah. And I would not, and I won't do that again. Like now I get it. I've kind of figured that out. Anyway, how did we end up here?
So we've talked about the mind.
Yeah.
We've talked about the body, and we are whole. Coming back to our childhood experience in our bodies, I think it is important for us to be able to name how we had people relate to us
Mm-hmm.
in our bodies. Do we have people teach us that our bodies were holy and sacred and precious and beautiful and delightful? Or were we conditioned in our family of origin and maybe our churches or schools or um, maybe on the basketball court or the football field or in your leotards and ballet slippers, that there was something less than, or that you felt that your body was not uh, right
Yep.
or good
Yeah.
or perfect. And for me, who has done a lot of work around my body, I had to acknowledge that growing up in a fundamentalist church, I received a deep love for scripture and for Jesus, and have a real solid foundation that is easy for me to find, that is seeking a desire to live a meaningful life. I'm grateful for those experiences, but I also grew up in a tradition that abandoned the love and honor and awe for this physical body. And
Mm.
the way that came out was my body was something to distrust.
Yeah.
My mind was something to distrust. My felt experience, my desires, or my heart, because it was, quote, the flesh.
Sure.
So whenever I felt a desire, a fear, anger, longing, pleasure, or grief, there was also this subtle assumption that my body was trying to somehow pull me away from God.
Mm.
So whenever I disobeyed or got in trouble, it was connected in my childhood to what I did was against my parents' rules and therefore my God-given authority. And then ultimately I was sinning and hurting God
Mm.
in what I was doing. So
Mm.
that language of the flesh comes from the Apostle Paul's word that he uses. It's a Greek word. It's called sarx, and it's usually translated as the flesh.
Mm.
So growing up, I learned and understood that sarx meant my body. So spiritually, there was this idea in my mind that I was becoming a project that had to manage and discipline and ultimately overcome my body because my body wanted comfort. I questioned it. If my body wanted rest, I would push harder. If I felt strong emotions, I became suspicious of them. And without realizing it, I began to live almost entirely from the neck up
Mm-hmm.
in my life.
Mm-hmm.
The goal wasn't to inhabit my body. The goal was to rise above,
Mm-hmm.
therefore leaving my body and going into my head.
Yep. And that's, I think, pretty ubiquitous in our culture, even if you didn't grow up in a religious context. I mean, I did as well and got a lot of that same messaging and was also very deeply impacted by society messages about, especially as a woman, your body is supposed to look a particular kind of way. And I grew up in a age where, the 70s and 80s were, you needed to be like thin. Like thin was super in. So it's, if you stop and like really think about it or feel it, how wild is it that we are taught to reject ourselves?
Mm-hmm.
and to fight with, and to see ourselves as less than, problematic, sinful, whatever kind of labels you want to put on that. I mean, no wonder we feel the ways that we do. No wonder we feel burnt out and stressed and tired, or I mean, yeah. So I imagine what you're saying, and that is this journey of learning how to inhabit our bodies and to relate to them in a more compassionate, generative, kind way is obviously going to be pretty important.
Mm-hmm. And my faith in life unfolding exactly the way it needs to,
Mm-hmm.
in my story, led me into my own experience of the dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in that, I discovered something that completely surprised me.
Mm.
The body that I had spent my whole life trying to master or manage or control was actually trying to help me in my experience of losing what gave me a felt sense of ground and centered. It wasn't subordinating my spiritual life. It had actually been carrying my experience with grief and loss and letting go,
Mm-hmm.
and holding my fear, protecting me through trauma and trying to get my attention for years.
Mm-hmm.
The very thing I had learned to mistrust, then on the other side of my experience falling apart and disintegrating, appeared as my greatest teacher.
Mm. So will you give just a little bit more context? Like, what do you mean by dark night of the soul?
The dark night of the soul is a phrase that was coined by St. John of the Cross. He was a Carmelite mystic back in the 16th century, and he described it as God's way of freeing us from our attachments to certainty, so that we might awaken to the deeper union with reality itself. These are his words. He said, "To come to possess all, desire the possession of nothing. To come to be all, desire to be nothing. To arrive at knowing all, desire to know nothing." In the moment of that dark night of the soul, and I'll say something, when I have people throw around this term, the dark night of the soul, like, I'm in the dark night of the soul right now, because I lost my job, or I was in a car accident, or I'm in the middle of a breakup. I have to stop and say that probably a year after of my experience with that disorientation, I could not even define what my experience was.
Yeah.
Nor could the mystics of old, including St. John of the Cross. So if you are grabbing onto this term and using it flippantly,
That is
just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop.
It's not what it is. Yeah, it's...
I've even had spiritual teachers just kind of throw it around, and I'm like,
it's not what it is.
no, I don't think so.
It is, like, in retrospect, I am kind of shocked that you were able to still function day to day as well as you were. Like, I kind of don't know how you did it, because I think if I mean, maybe I would figure it out in the same way that you did, but I don't know that I would have been able to, like, still go to work and be a husband or a wife. And yeah, you I do think have a really remarkable capacity to not put on an act, but in a sense, it was like, I'm going to go and pretend to be a normal human out in the world And then when I come back into my
Safe
space, I can utterly fall apart. And you did that masterfully.
Thank you, I think. So in that season, so defining what do I mean by Dark Night of the Soul, the first time that I participated in a guided psychedelic experience, I had the opening up of everything on the inside and lost all felt, perceived, understood ways of definition. Like there was no definition in my experience. It was all, the sexy term is unitive consciousness. It was all one. And in reality, when we are obliterated and go as of something that has been vaporized and just like blend into everything, it's a little sketchy.
Oh,
It's a little sketchy. So
I mean, so maybe we'll decide whether or not we want to edit this out if I say too much.
Yeah.
But like, you were having panic attacks. You were vomiting.
Yep.
There would be times where you would get like sucked away attentionally, and you would,
or spiritually,
spiritually and
or psychically,
and it was like you were transported into another time and place. So like you were visually seeing other landscapes, other people. Sometimes you would speak and your words did not, like it was not English. It was just, I called it word salad. And you would slip into that, like just in a normal, we'd be sitting on the couch just having a conversation, and then all of a sudden you're elsewhere. So I want to name that, like, it was a profoundly destabilizing, and it lasted for 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it wasn't that psychedelics scrambled my brain.
No. Yeah, it didn't damage you.
Because I used plant medicine as a practice and as a sacrament subsequent times, with the hope or the assumption that I would be able to retrace my steps back to reality that I had had before.
Yeah.
And that just was not happening.
Mm-hmm.
So the experience of having a shift in my sense of ground and centered, I wasn't prepared for that.
No.
It was a worldview. It was a way of relating to my experience that I had spent decades building. And then suddenly it all felt unstable and like disappeared. So the beliefs, assumptions, identity that had organized my life no longer fit in the same way that it once had. And it wasn't that I had lost my faith. It was that my old way of understanding reality could no longer hold what I had experienced in that crossing from duality into non-duality.
Yeah.
So folks like St. John of the Cross, they point over many, many centuries of experience that this profound spiritual transition is not something to be feared or run from. It's something to surrender to, because there is something wanting to emerge that is deeper or below the surface, and the old story just doesn't work for what is emerging. And so there is a need for a new one.
Yeah, and I also want to name that, like, this is not just a Christian experience. Like, this didn't happen to you because you are a Christian.
Thanks, Jesus.
This happened to you because you are a human, and it happens to atheists. It happens to Hindus. It doesn't matter what belief system you have or how you orient. it is in the same way that we understand, for example, little children go through phases of development. They go from being able to understand very, very, very simple concepts to very abstract ones. And to in the same way, our psyche or our spirit or combination of both, whatever bucket you want to put all of that in, there is a underlying process, maybe you could call it an evolution to our psyches that can take place. I imagine that these kinds of transformations need our engagement to some degree. So like you are somebody who has had contemplative practices for decades. And, and psychedelics then became just one tool and, something new that you were trying. And so you were like primed for this kind of transformation. It just kind of flicked you off the edge of the cliff. And, naturally, if you can imagine what it would be like to just be involuntarily flicked off the edge of a cliff, like it'd be terrifying at first. But then I've heard it said, eventually you realize there's no ground to hit. You're just falling, and there's nothing to be afraid of. But, you're going to spend some time screaming your head off thinking that you're about to die. And so it's going to not be very fun at first. Anyway, all of this is to say our psyche, our spirit, our emotional world, our somatic experience, it is being influenced by some very deep evolutionary forces that are kind of guiding us along a path if we're engaging with it. If we're not, and we're trying to tune all that out and shut it away, that too is going to have some pretty profound consequences. It'll be like maybe, things are going to start to get
real squirrely.
Yeah, and we will suffer as a result of it. So we can either surrender to, it's kind of like in laws of nature. I mean, we can try to walk through the world pretending that gravity doesn't exist. But, if we decide, well, I want to walk off the edge of this roof anyway, screw the consequences. It's like, well, it's going to hurt. You're going to fall and you're going to hit the ground and it's not going to be. And so in that same way, like there are very natural laws to our psyche, and we will, we can either go with the flow or we can experience the resistance.
Yeah. For months afterwards, I searched desperately to find some sort of meaning in my experience. I read books, I listened to podcasts, I journaled, had long conversations with trusted friends and mentors and elders, and I was trying to think my way back to solid ground.
Sure, of course.
Because that's what I had always done before.
Oh, that's how you had regulated yourself. And
I was always able to come back to, this is my truth base.
Yeah.
And I was able to feel it then in my body. But it was in my first heart-opening experience that I've talked about in relationship to working with someone in the field of death and grief and loss. My way of reasoning and figuring out, what do I need to do here in this moment? How can I fix this person? Didn't work. And so I dropped down into my heart and listened from my heart and spoke from my heart. In this time of disruption, I hadn't done that drop into my heart or drop into my body. It was, I'm trying to figure it out in my head, and nothing made sense. And so I had a moment where I'm sitting with my therapist and doing what I had become very good at, and that was explaining my experience.
Yeah.
Explaining my confusion, my fear, my searching, my doubt, my uncertainty, my lack of ground and center. And after listening quietly for a while, he gently interrupted me. He gently said, "Ryan, don't you think you don't need to understand this more? I think you've understood it about as much as you can. don't think your mind is where healing is going to happen now.
Mm.
He said, I think it's time to stop trying to explain it from your head and begin to experience it in your body and in your heart.
Mm-hmm.
And then he told me something that I'd never had a therapist tell me. I can't help you anymore. You need to get a spiritual teacher, director, or guide to help you in this next state of your experience.
Yeah.
And that encouragement was not because therapy had somehow failed,
Mm-hmm.
but that therapy had brought me to the edge of something that wasn't designed to complete my season that I was in.
Yeah.
And so then I discovered something that contemplative traditions, indigenous cultures, modern neuroscience, they all agree on, that insight is not the same as integration.
Mm-hmm.
That understanding your grief while carrying it in your chest doesn't relieve the feeling of grief in your chest.
Mm-hmm.
Or that you can understand anxiety while your stomach is still knotted up.
Yep.
Or that you can understand your trauma while your nervous system continues to live as though the danger is still present. And that was what my experience was.
Yeah.
The danger was still present. And my therapist, he wasn't diminishing or putting down the gift of wisdom or understanding of the mind. He was just honoring the limits that were present in my experience. So the body is not bad.
No. Oh my gosh, it's one of the biggest gifts we could ever be given.
The scriptures that came to life after that realization that embodiment practices, spending time just sitting in nature, going on long walks without my headphones in and just listening to the birds and feeling the breeze. My embodiment practices helped me regulate and find a sense of ground and center that I couldn't in my mind. And it was also undoing or unprogramming the idea that the body is bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was able to have a felt sense in my experience of the idea that the body is the temple of the Holy Spirit and that it is sacred and it is beautiful and I can trust what is coming from my gut or my heart, or when I feel tension in my neck or my shoulders, I know exactly what it is. And so that whole process was ultimately coming home. It was learning that I wasn't supposed to ignore my body, that I am a whole, as you said, and I'm not this fragmented, segmented, shattered existence.
What a thing to get both somatic awareness and non-duality all in one fell swoop. Like, holy crap.
Well, and I had also grown up with a great deal of disdain for ritual.
Because sure.
I'm a Protestant.
Yeah.
We have relationship with Jesus. We don't have rituals like the evil Catholics.
Yes, us evil Catholics.
They do all these rituals and it's not a relationship with the Christ.
Yeah.
But the irony was that the faith I grew up in had embodiment practices.
Sure.
It had all kinds of amazing ritual that then I was able to rest into in the dark night of the soul when I couldn't tell what was up or down and feel the familiarity and the comfort. And even though the dark night of the soul is pointing at the lack of certainty in our experience, ritual gives us a sense of felt certainty in our bodies. And some of the ways that came through were practices and rituals bringing comfort and familiarity to our physical experience, such as baptism, communion,
Mm.
kneeling, anointing with oil, laying on of hands, fasting,
Yep.
feasting, singing, lifting hands in worship. The body was always there. I just hadn't been taught that it was one of the primary places where God meets us.
Yeah, when I was discovering all of this, as a secular person, of course, my language for it and my practices were different. But of course, fundamentally, we're talking about the same thing, and so I I had a phase where I got a bunch of different crystals, pretty rocks, and the the scientist in me wants to say that when I look at a piece of rose quartz, I feel a particular kind of way because of the color of it and the weight of it and just the visual experience of it versus like malachite, for example. It's this green swirly thing and it elicits in me. I have a disdain for malachite. Like it like grates on my nervous system in a way that no rock ever has.
Mm-hmm.
And so my rational mind wants to say, "Oh, you're just, responding to sensation and putting meaning on it." And that may very well be. It doesn't really matter. My little woo-woo self that I have been carefully cultivating the last 7 years will say, "Yeah, there's something more there." That there is perhaps like your coworker who can see other people's energetic bodies as they are nearing death, that there is a lot in this energetic world that the rational, materialistic, scientific mind doesn't know quite how to make sense of. But, when I hear things like the heart, for example, has the biggest energetic field in the body. It extends out from the body several feet. Far larger, like the brain, most people would assume like the brain is the part of the body that has an energetic field that we can measure, but it's actually the heart and orders of magnitude more than the brain. And so there are landscapes here that other cultures have mapped with exquisite detail for millennia. So I'm thinking of traditional Chinese medicine and like qi and their description of meridians and the yogis with chakras and nadis and so there are corollaries to that in the Western scientific world where we can talk about the fascia in the body and the autonomic nervous system. And it turns out the chakra, where the Indians point to chakras, those are actually all big junction points in the body that have tremendous amounts of
fascia.
Not neural. They are bundles of nerves at those centers. So the body like the heart, for example, the heart chakra. I mean, obviously, it's your fucking heart. There's a whole bunch of neural or nerve endings, and so we can find physical correlates, and we are starting to, in the Western world, understand how then those might be impacting the body. We look at disease function and we can look at cognitive functioning, and essentially what Western medicine just keeps discovering is that, we've said this dozens of times probably on this podcast, it is confirming what many ancient traditions have known for thousands of years. And I just find that. So when we're talking about this landscape of energy, we can get into some things that sound very woo-woo, but actually are absolutely grounded in science as well.
Science is validating
Yes.
what has been known and trusted for the eons.
And having that helps me tremendously rest in my experience and rest in like what my body is picking up, and helps me accept it and not feel like I'm crazy and I'm losing my mind. And so I am very grateful to live in an age where I have that.
For those of you that are not into any type of religious practice or come from that, maybe you have an allergy to having grown up in a particular faith system. One of the folks that I will point people to that can support in finding a no-nonsense spirituality is Britt Hartley. You can look her up on YouTube. She's got some great videos out there for understanding and growing if you identify as I am a secular spiritual person. Like, and I know maybe 10 years ago I would have been like, what? That doesn't make any sense.
A secular spiritual person?
And I have many people in my life today who are recovering from toxic religious experiences, and they are looking for a felt sense of safety and belonging and connection with themselves and also the world outside. And so running a quick little search for secular spirituality can give you a lot of non-religious practices that can support and aid in your personal development and expression of your true and innermost self.
Yeah. Thank goodness.
Yeah. Would you share just a little bit about how embodiment and connecting with the intelligence of your body turned on?
I think the big impetus for that was my divorce, and then COVID followed fairly quickly after that, about a year afterwards. And then the year before my divorce was when I joined a community in Austin that met every week, that the authentic relating community and the circling community to some degree, that they were practicing relational, emotional intelligence and somatic awareness. It was facilitated events. There were always, kind of lead facilitators. There was always a theme. And so I had been embedded in that for a couple of years. And when my marriage fell apart, my first impulse was to ask myself, what did I do to contribute to this relationship's failure? Not as a way to like shame myself or, oh my God, how did I fuck up? It wasn't that. It was like, what did I not see? What am I not understanding? Because I knew that like this is a really, really big deal, that this relationship is falling apart, and it is probably going to be really important for me to understand so I don't repeat in the future what happened. And, I don't blame either one of us. Like I understand now that, sort of inevitable given our capacities. And then when COVID happened, that was a profound turning to, I discovered nature in a way that I hadn't felt since childhood. And so all of those were just kind of converging. So I was in a community where people were asking me to find words for my feelings and to find words for my somatic experience. And I was going to ecstatic dance. and I was around other people who were talking about their experiences in ways that I'd never heard anybody normalize before.
I'll interrupt you real quick. Ecstatic dance is a group of people who are just dancing to the feel of the music that's being played. Like
it's not performative.
No choreograph at all.
No.
It is just very much
however you want to move your body.
You're moving to the feel of the moment and the music.
Yeah, it can be a very meditative practice. And it can be very it had always been very confronting. Like it was kind of there's a degree to which it's always been difficult for me, and it still is. I'll do a static dance in our living room. I don't go to public ones anymore. But it's still an important part of my somatic health and well-being to have vehicles to express the energy.
What is taking place in your attentional system is very important. And I think developmentally, a static dance doesn't make sense from certain developmental perspectives.
That's very true. Yeah.
So it's important if you're like, that sounds stupid.
Yep. That's totally fine.
That's great. Once you hit fourth person perspective,
yeah,
there is a way of relating to your attentional system where you're aware of all the other people around you, and you're also turning your focus and your attention to the inside of what feels good or what is being evoked or coming out of the experience of this music, and also in relationship to everybody around you, because it's not dancing at other people.
Yeah, it's different than the kind of dance I would have done in the clubs in my 20s.
Yeah. It's also not dancing with other people.
Right. Yep.
It's feeling in your body. And so it is very meditative because you're internally receiving the energy of the music and allowing your body to convey that energy in a way that it's your whole body.
Oh yeah.
It's
well, so like I can name, for example, there's this song right now that's kind of captured my attention that when I dance to it, there is a particular way that my legs will take a wide stance. So I'm creating a strong base, almost like a, think of horse stance in, what is that? It's not, maybe it's Tai Chi. So just, feet wider, like you're going to do a big wide squat, and I'm, my legs, my knees are at an angle a little bit, like I'm seated, my butt is kind of seated down a little bit. So my quads and my glutes are engaged, and my back is strong, and my shoulders are wide. So my chest is exposed. So it's very heart opening, but there's also a vulnerability to that. And I will tend to want to like throw my head back, so it's also exposing my throat. And energetically, that does something really profound in the body. Because in a sense, I'm picking up on the energy of the music, and it is channeling through me. And I am learning how to handle more and more energy moving through my system. And it absolutely pushes up against an edge. And I have to just like breathe. And sometimes it creates lots of tears, like in a cathartic, not in a sad, I'm in a grief kind of way. But it's not sadness. It's actually like ecstatic joy, and also maybe a little bit of fear. And it's just intense. And so there can be tears, so in a group setting, I love when people's voices get going and there's like lots of whooping and hollering, or just rah. And that, we as humans have actually been doing a static dance for thousands of years, probably tens of thousands of years. It is a very old, primal, powerful practice that connects us to something ancient. It connects us to something deeply human, and it does things to our experience that like no amount of talk therapy can, no amount of reading a book can. And so, I've probably got half a dozen different somatic tools, so to say, that I will use just depending on the day and depending on what I'm experiencing. But those took years to build. And I had lots of really great role modeling from other humans. I also had some pretty terrible role modeling from other humans. But, you figure out pretty quickly, like, what's bullshit and what's healthy. And that's okay. It's just part of the process. We're all figuring it out.
In men's work, it's beautiful to watch a man who is, for all intents and purposes, shut down and not connected to body or heart center, enter into the space where drumming is taking place.
Oh, so good.
And to watch and to feel a man sitting in a chair with a drum, and then him begin to respond to the invitation from his own drum in his hand to get up and to move and to put body into the mix. So in your process of coming home to your body, ecstatic dance was a part of that. So you've had many different levels or stages or modalities, ways of experiencing your body and reconnecting to it.
And it's still evolving. I mean, I'm certainly not done, so to say. There's a lot. I can tell that this is a landscape that has an enormous breadth and depth, and I've charted one tiny little map of the territory. And, this is going to go on for the rest of my life, which is very exciting. I mean, it gives there is a richness and a vitality to life that I did not have before. And that is really cool. I feel the heartbreak or the grief or the joy much more deeply, much more widely, but there's less suffering in the negative experiences than what I experienced before, even though in my protected, defensive, contracted, numbed out space, which is, so I guess what I want to name in that is when we start on this journey of somatic awareness or energetic curiosity, it's, I think for everyone, really overwhelming. It's very confusing. And so it's just incredibly helpful to have other people who have walked the path before you and can kind of help. So whether that's a or a group like ecstatic dance or authentic relating, or or men's work, there's all. I mean, the world is full of people doing nervous system stuff right now. So there's definitely no shortage of it. But it's I think generally speaking, it's just a process of you dip your toes in, you see what it's like, you tolerate as much as you can, and then you retreat back and you find your ground, you find your center, and then you integrate it. You kind of try to make sense of it, and then you go and you do it again. And it's like for most people it's like that. For you, I think you kind of had a rude awakening in some ways. So I can't really comment on that because I've never experienced that version of it.
That's why I was asking you to describe your experience. Would you dip into a little bit of neuroscience and talk about what the embodiment is all about and what we mean and how all of that is taking place within our experience as a human in a body?
So in a very simple way, somatic awareness is simply paying attention to the internal experiences of your body in this present moment. Embodiment is, let's pretend you've been doing somatic awareness for a year. You will then have a more integrated way of being as a person in your body, and that is embodiment. So you have a lived experience of being in a body versus just having a body.
So somatic awareness, I have a coworker that will tap their foot constantly.
Yep.
They are not aware of that.
Yep.
So they have very little or they're inexperienced in somatic awareness.
Right. Which then also means they have no embodiment.
Okay.
So somatic awareness builds your capacity to be in your body. So having a body is basically like living all up in your head. Your body is just there to carry around your brain. And,
Mhm.
I lived most of my life that way. Whereas now I am fully in the whole thing. We have, from a somatic awareness point of view, there are 3 kinds of perception. One of them is exteroception, which is simply the awareness of the external world through sight and sound and taste and touch and smell. It's a fancy $5 word for a thing that we all experience every day. Proprioception is your spatial awareness, your motor control. So it's just the awareness of where your body is in space. For everybody, this is not conscious. Like, you don't have to consciously think to yourself, okay, now when I stand up, how do I need to stand so that I don't tip over? You just do it automatically. But if you've ever experienced like vertigo, for example, you will know, well, and psychedelics too will mess with your proprioception. Dizziness, sometimes if you get like a really bad head cold, your proprioception gets all wonky. And then you appreciate the beauty of this system when it's taken away from you. And then there is interoception, which is the capacity to attune to the internal signals that your body is producing. So that could be your muscles are tight, your stomach is upset, your heart is racing. So that lady who's tapping her foot, she's kind of blind from an interoception point of view. Why this matters, 80% of the data that is going to your brain is coming up from the body, and only 20% of what your brain is doing is sending information back down to your body, which is often very surprising for a lot of people.
That's fascinating.
It is. So your body is, in a sense, the main thing that is providing information to the brain. And then your brain is figuring out what to do to that and then sending info back down into the body. So the body is just so, so, so critical. And then, of course, what comes online is, then we get heightened intuitive capacities. There is a knowing. So, for example, I was talking to somebody recently, and she was telling me a story about this terrible experience she had with a man she was dating for about 1.5 years. And then there was a horrible end to the relationship in a way that she did not see coming at all. I have been in an experience like that. I recognize now, like me now, if I had met a guy like that I knew in my 20s, me now would know instantly that guy was bullshit. Me in my 20s was completely bamboozled, not because I was stupid or, I don't know, immature. I mean, I was immature in lots of ways, but fundamentally it was because I was not attuned to my body and to my emotions. And so in the same way that like that lady is blind to the fact that she's just tapping her foot all the time, we are also blind to, we get bamboozled by what people say or how they look. And we're just missing this huge stream of information that then I think has enormous consequences on our relationships, our professional life, our family life, our sense of who we are as ourselves. So I think that the energetic capacities matter in profound ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's fascinating to think that 80% of our communication coming into our brains is coming through our body.
Yep. Up. 80% goes up. Only 20% goes down. So it's, and I think this is why other traditions who did not suffer kind of the Western consequence of, philosophers have traced it to Descartes when he says, I think, therefore I am. That was kind of the Cartesian split between this idea that it is a Western, fairly recent idea that our brain is the thing that's important and our body is not so much. Whereas for the vast majority of human history, cultures have understood that the body is actually the thing that is incredibly wise and tapped into things that to us as modern Western humans seems preposterous and magical and ridiculous. And, we kind of dismiss it in lots of different ways. But delightfully, the neuroscience just keeps showing us that what our body is picking up on and how the brain interprets it and the degree to which it changes what we know and how we understand ourselves and other people in the world is just is profound.
So today, it would be fair to wrap up this podcast with a curious statement such as, the body doesn't speak in sentences, but rather the body speaks in felt sense. The heaviness in the chest, the knot in the stomach, warmth, tingling, pressure, tears that arrive before words. We both have spent years trying to translate everything into thought, only to find that the invitation was to stop translating and simply listen.
Mm.
So the invitation today is try an experiment this week. Stop asking, what do I think? And start asking, what am I noticing? That's when simple practice becomes profound. Something like lighting a candle, walking in a green space, sitting beside the water, feeling one's feet on the ground, connecting with your breath, holding prayer beads, watching the sunrise. These aren't magical techniques. They're just simply ways for our body to know that it's safe enough to come home.
Thank you. We are beings with all of these senses and all of these perceptual capacities, and they're there for a really important reason. And we're in this world that is full of sounds and sights and smells and textures. It is all meant to be made contact with deeply, passionately. Yeah. So go experience the world.
Feel your body today.
Yes.
Feel the power, feel the fragility. It all belongs and is beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, friends.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Yep.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye.